Hello everybody, I'm Dan. Welcome to my Java tutorial series. Throughout my tutorials I will teach you Java using just Notepad and the command prompt. The order in which my tutorials are organized on both my website at javacjava.com and my YouTube playlist is designed to maximize learning by building on concepts from prior tutorials. This tutorial is about the LocalInner class. I'm going to open up my web browser to my website, javacjava.com, and select Begin. I'm going to scroll all the way down to LocalInner classes. Alright, so the LocalInner class is one of the 4 nested classes that I briefly discussed in my Introduction to Nested Classes tutorial. I highly recommend watching that prior to this here, and even just the regular inner class tutorial as well. I'll give you a little idea when I try to instantiate some of these, and then method LocalInner class later on. But anyway, a LocalInner class, also known as a method LocalInner class, is defined inside of a method. So in this particular example here, I've got my class standard definition, and here's my class body. I've just got a string instanceVar here, a local instance variable right there. Not a local, but a member instance variable right there. And then here's my method name here, and here's its body right there. And I've got this local variable string s. And then right below that, I've got class LocalInner, right? And here's the class body there, and I've just got a little instance variable I set up there, right? So we got a local variable here, we got an instance variable up here. Now the first thing to understand about a LocalInner class is that it can only be instantiated from within the method that it is contained in. You cannot create an instance of the class anywhere else. Now here are some rules for the LocalInner class. A LocalInner class has complete access to all the members of the class that it is inside of. Okay, so it's inside of methodName, right? But it's inside of, it's basically all the members of the class that it is inside of. So this is the only member here, right? It doesn't necessarily have access to this, and I'll explain that here in just a second here, but a LocalInner class does not have access to the local variables of the method that it is inside of unless those variables are marked final or are effectively final. Now, effectively final is something that was introduced in Java 8, and I'll go into that a little bit more in the code there. But this right here is not marked final, so it doesn't necessarily have access to it in certain circumstances, and I'll demonstrate that. So you cannot specify an access modifier. So for example, you can't make this public, private, or protected there. So you can specify abstract or final. Who knows why you want to, but you can. You cannot mark the class static. You may not have static variables or methods inside of the class. The local class definition must be defined in your code prior to attempting to create an instance. Okay, let's come down here, highlight all the source code. Control-C to copy, or right-click and select copy. I'm going to move my browser off screen, and I've got a shortcut to the command prompt on my desktop. If you don't, you can create one really fast by right-clicking New, Shortcut, CMD, Next, and Finish. It's just that easy. If you're new to my tutorials, first thing you want to do is type in Java-C when you open up the command prompt. You should see all this stuff scroll by. If you get an error message, watch my tutorial on installing the Java Development Kit. You want to make sure you get that installed and configured properly before continuing. CLS to clear the screen, CD space / CD is short for change directory / tells it to go to the root. I'm going to make a directory with the MD command here called Java, and I already have that folder, but if you don't, it'll go ahead and create it for you. Let's change directories to the Java folder here. We'll make another directory here, and I'm just going to call this LocalInner class. Let's change directories to that folder. And I'm on a notepad, tester.java, and I just don't want to add confusion because the name of that class will be I don't want it to be LocalInner class where my main method is defined in there. So I'm just going to call this source code file tester.java. Alright, let's go ahead and paste this in here. Alright, so we've got two classes, two outer classes I should say, right? Tester, and it has the main method entry point in here, and then I got this class outer here, and I've got just a simple instance variable in the outer at the member level, string s, and I'm setting that equal to the string level of outer s. And then I've got this method here called display st, and I've got all of this commented on a multi-line comment right at the moment there. So we're just going to play around with some of this stuff here. So in the display st, if you pretend like this doesn't even exist, right? It's pretty simple there. String t equals method t. And we can display to the console s plus t, because of course we know this method display st has access to, you know, the member variable there, right? That's part of the class. So anyway, let's just go ahead and save this and let's compile this. So basically I'm doing a standard, you know, outer reference variable, lowercase outer of outer type, right? And setting that equal to a new outer object. And then I'm invoking the display st method here. All right, so let's go ahead and save this. Let's clear our screen, let's compile it, and let's run it. Okay, so outer s and method t. So that's pretty straightforward. We displayed the variable, this member variable here, and we displayed this local variable that's local to this method here, okay? And of course, you know, going back to the scope thing, remember that t is only valid within the scope of this, the method body here, right? Anyway, all right, let's talk about just a couple of things here. Let's go ahead and take out the multi-line comment, and let's comment this line and this line real quick here. All right, the LocalInner class, what I've got in there is this is fairly simple. And I'm just going to go into first things first there is that we can't, I'm going to demonstrate that we can't create an instance out of LocalInner by trying to instantiate it anywhere outside of this display st method here. We'll try it up here. We'll try it here. You know, there's not much we can do. I'll demonstrate that. Matter of fact, I should just demonstrate that real quick here before I talk about what that class does. So I am going to do outer dot LocalInner, and we'll just call this OL equals new outer new and local inner, right? Now, if this syntax looks absolutely bizarre to you, then you need to watch my tutorial on just a regular inner class tutorial. It's a tutorial prior to this one here. Just the regular inner class will explain all how this works here, right? So we're just going to come up here and save this. Let's clear our screen and let's try to recompile that now. Okay, so cannot find symbol. So we can't even define it there, right? And cannot find symbol on LocalInner. So as you can see, we can't do anything like that there as well. Let's say, for example, we try to do it inside of the outer class right here, right? Same thing. Cannot find our LocalInner. You know, there really isn't anything we can do with this necessarily per se here. We could do, like, for example, this will actually work because it's inside the method. But if we try to do this particular thing outside of the method here, like that, right? Come up here and save that and run this, right? We're still going to get, you know, cannot find the LocalInner there, right? So it can only, you can't create an instance of that LocalInner class anywhere outside of the method. So that's kind of rule number one there. All right, let's talk about the next thing on the list. So a LocalInner class has complete, well, actually, you know what? Let's, okay. A LocalInner class has complete access to all the members of the class that it is inside of. All right, so basically LocalInner, I've got this int I 41, right? And don't worry, I'm gonna get to the effectively final things that are commented out here, but inside of LocalInner, I've got this display message, right? And that method will simply display s, which is way out here, t, which is a local variable here, and then I, which is an instance variable inside of this LocalInner class. All right, so we'll display those to the console there. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna comment these two out right here, right? So this display st, the only thing I've added in is this right here. All right, so let's come up here and save, and we're just gonna compile this just to make sure everything works great there, right? And we compile, and let's just run it. We haven't really changed anything other than, you know, adding in the class there, right, and compiling it. Now we need to create an instance of the LocalInner class, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. And one of the things that I said is the local class definition must be defined in your code prior to attempting to create an instance. And we're just going to go ahead and run this here real quick here. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll show you how this works, right? Or what happens if we try to put this in front of the class definition and we come up here and save this. What we're going to get is an error. It's going to say cannot find symbol. It doesn't know where LocalInner is. So these have to, before you create an instance, the class must be ahead of it in the code there. So now if we save this, right, it's going to compile just fine. All right, now let's go ahead and run it, and then I'll talk about some other stuff here. Java tester, right? Okay, so here's what we've got going on. The first thing we did is displayed, S and T to the console there, right up here, outer S method T. Now down here, we created a new local inner instance, right? And li is the reference variable, and then I invoked the display message method on it right there, which caused it to print S. So it has the value of S, so S is outer S, right? And then print T, which is method T, and then I, which is 41. All right, so that basically I said a local inner class has complete access to all the members of the class that it is inside of, right? So it has access to this one because this is inside of the outer class, right? It has access to obviously its own its own stuff there, right? Well, let me kind of rewind here. What I'm going to do is I am going to come up here and save this, and I'm going to basically uncomment this line here, right? And I'm going to show you what happens there if we try to compile this now. Okay. All right, so we now get an error, identifier expected, right? And that's basically because we just ruined the effectively final here. We're going to try something else up here, and we're just going to say, like, for example, T equals, we're going to change its value. Changed method T. All right, and I am going somewhere with this, I do promise. All right, save this, and now let's try to compile that. Okay, so local variables referenced from an inner class must be final or effectively final. All right, so that's a beautiful message there. All right. If we change this, for example, to final string T, now we're going to have a problem when we try to change this method here, right? So let's go ahead and save this here. Okay, cannot assign a value to final variable T. All right, so I'm going to come back to this inside LocalInner here for just a second. So what we've got is now it's going to work. All right, so in Java 7 and earlier, you had to include the final on this here for this local variable inside of this method, right? So string T, you had to include final. Now what they did in Java 8 is as long as you don't change this, right, this makes this effectively final, right? So if you initialize it, set it to a value, and don't change it, it becomes effectively final, and the compiler will love it, and it will allow you to compile it, and it'll allow us to run it, okay? Now, one of the things that when I was toying around creating this tutorial here, I came across this basically this is an instance variable, int I equals 41. Okay, so what happens if we, obviously that works there. It's just a local instance variable there. And if we try to change it too as well, right? We're just going to get this error message that isn't about the effectively final. We're going to get this error message that says identifier expected. So I put in the comment there that I believe that this is kind of effectively final in in Java 8 too as well, right? Because it works just fine as long as we don't, it acts just like this up here, right? But it looks like the same thing here. And I couldn't find any documentation necessarily for a instance variable of a local inner class being effectively final or required to be final in Java 8. But if we add the final keyword in front of this, right? And then we go down here and we recompile this. Let's clear our screen, recompile this. Rerun it, right? Works just fine. Now you would think we'd get an error message if we said, okay, final in I41, and then we try to add 1 to it, right? You'd think you'd get kind of the same, cannot change the value of a final variable, but we don't get that at all. We get the same weird error identifier expected, right? So I'm just kind of, I'll say for sure that this is 100% documented, this is accurate and everything like that, but I'm guessing that in this particular case there, that local variables inside the local thing too have to be effectively final, and you can't really change their value either. So anyway, just something to be aware of there on that. So that pretty much about sums up all the stuff that that I wanted to discuss as far as local inner classes. So, or otherwise known as method local inner classes. So I'm going to go ahead and get this off screen, get that off screen, and I'll just leave you with a quick final thought there. So the most important thing to remember about a local inner class is that it can only be instantiated from within the method that it is contained in. That's just kind of the unique thing about that. So anyway, that concludes this tutorial. Thanks for watching.